Hello everyone, Thomas the Tank Engine and Happy Tree Friends fan 2012 here again for some new customs, and this time we have an army of customs. Minis customs, if I say so myself. Anyway, let's start off with these two. Bill and Ben are basic. I don't think Bill and Ben look half bad in minis. But all I really did to them was I repainted them with black wheels so they look more like their classic series counterparts. Because I was never really much of a fan of this the red wheels they had in CGI. I just thought it looked a bit weird. And personally, I just think black wheels look better on them. But what are your thoughts? Do you think they look better or worse with them? So, that's Bill and... So, next custom is actually a custom. Lady. Lady was made of a spare Percy I had, and that'll be a common occurrence in the video in terms of Percy. I made this as somewhat of a tribute to Brittlecroft. I swapped the footplate for a spare Charlie, I think. I think the buffer area was taken from a spare Charlie. The body was painted in purple and outlined in gold into Lady's details. And I used the same gold pen to colour her the smoke box. I will eventually do the face to resemble Lady, but for now I don't hate it. I like Lady. She's a cool looking model. It's ironically also a tribute to Brittlecroft, if you think about it, since they made it very shortly after we heard news of Brittlecroft's passing. May she rest in peace as well. Next custom is Molly. Molly was made of a spare Edward, repainted up in yellow and repainted to resemble Molly. Actually, I don't really hate Molly. I think she's one of the best, or actually a good custom. She's actually one of the newer ones I've made for the video, so overall, she's a really nice model, and I think I did alright. Next model is Harvey, made of a spare Percy. I tried to, ironically, the paint looks very similar to the wooden railway and take-along version of Harvey. You know, when he had like a very brown color. It was unintentional, obviously, but I think it makes him look more unique. Since I don't really hate Harvey in like a dark brown color, though obviously I prefer him in maroon. The crane arm was made of tack and cardboard pieces, and I originally wanted to make it rotatable, but I think it's just better we keep it static. Overall, I think and I used the same gold pen for Lady to outline Harvey's details. I like how Harvey looks. I don't get why many didn't make him. Harvey's such a loved character to me. Next two are Donald and Douglas, made of two spare Jameses. I know using Edwards would have been better for these two, but I didn't have many spare Edwards, so the Jameses will work. They were painted up in black, and I added their nameplates and numbers. They actually went through. I originally painted them up in the Sharpie, but I've obviously redone that now because Sharpie would barely last. And overall, I think Donald and Douglas should have been made in minis. I mean, they could have been pretty easy to do. Next up, Oliver, made of a spare Thomas. The reason I did Oliver, I originally made him in a much deeper green, as you'll see on a custom coming up. But then I decided to repaint him into a color that better resembles duck. Like, give me a sec. Let me see if I can find him. Yeah, okay, here. I tried to make a paint that looks similar to duck, so they'll match up. Doesn't really, obviously, looks more mint, but well. Anyway, I originally gave him a black footplate to resemble the CGI series, but but recently I've redone it in white to look more like the classic series because it just looks better than black if I say so. Just too black for him. That sounds a bit racist now that I say it. I added his details with a black with pens, and obviously that's how Oliver is. He's one of the better costumes if I say so. And again, I just wish Minis could have made him. He's such a loved character by many. Next up is Ryan, one of the newer customs. Ryan looks a bit, you can definitely tell he's a bit rushed, but oh well, it suffices. I think Ryan looks actually okay. I used the same purple paint I used on my custom of the purple Henry V color for in Orange and Go. I just used that same purple and just put it on him and added his details when it dried up, and yeah. You can definitely see the blue bits in his wheels where where they were holding down, but it doesn't bug me too much, I guess. Overall, and technically Ryan was technically an official minis, but that was in like a DC superheroes comic some style video made to promote them, and Ryan was in it. So why didn't Minis make an official Ryan? It could not have been that hard to make a new tooling for him. Oh well. I think Ryan looks alright, and a character who I think is personally overlooked. Ryan's pretty cool. I like him. Next custom is of a magazine character. 13. I decided to make 13 because I think he would have been a neat looking character to make. He was made of a spare Percy with the bunker chipped down, with the sandboxes and bunker chipped off him. 13 is a character from a magazine story called The Unlucky Engine, where he works with Donald and Douglas and causes trouble. Not intentionally, but and he was also said to have breathing problems with his tacky firebox, which was eventually solved, and now he's a well-respected member of Sodor's Railway. I wish we could have seen him in the show, or even, more, because I think he's a very cool character. I made him sort of a mix. I tried to make him a mix between his official depiction and kind of my own thing. And also, yes, I am aware he was used to be Joey in Stories of Sodor, but whatever. I mean, I don't really care much about Stories of Sodor, it's really whatever. Overall, I think 13's a very nice model, and I plan to make an adaptation of the comic and of the magazine book story, and possibly give this guy a name. No, I'm not going for Joey. You can let Victor Tantic do that. Anyway, next model is Timothy. Well, my personal take on Timothy, at least. Timothy was made of a spare Thomas with the splashes chipped off. I painted him up in grey. I originally painted him in a darker grey in his E2 form, but I eventually decided to try and make a unique version of Timothy that wasn't an E2. So I went for a Hudwell Clark 060 design, based on the engine that was Wilbert Audrey named Thomas. On the Nene Valley Railway. So that engine design is basically my design for Timothy. I like how I did him I obviously redid him in a brighter grey that better resembles the wheel colour, and I love it. You may recall him from my YouTube short I made, and, well, I think he's a very nice model. Though in my version he obviously is not an E2, and he's not a ghost, obviously. Next up on the list is Thomas and James from The Adventure Begins. These versions are based on how they are depicted in The Adventure Begins. Technically, we did have official minis of Black James and Green Thomas. However, there was a big comically huge paintbrush on the sides of them, painted them up in blue for Thomas, and apparently the paint there was like a big paintbrush of just repainting the sides of Thomas and James on their official ones. So it's only one side that has them in their proper color in the colors we wish they had. But I wanted to try and make proper versions of them, and I think Thomas looks really good. I even added the white rim around his wheels, for the sake of it. I think Thomas is probably one of the better models I've made, and I can use him as an Adventure Begins style thing. James was painted up in a Sharpie, which is pretty bad for an idea, but it works for now, I guess. Overall, I think he looks really good. I mean, it's just James with the black and red swapped around, so what more do you expect? And that's them. And that's them done. Next up is Eagle, or the red engine we see in the story, the sad story of Henry, where this mainly came from the idea of Eagle, the OC. He's basically a brother of James, and he's meant to be the engine who resembles James in the sad story of Henry, where this engine attempts to push Henry out the tunnel, but doesn't succeed in doing so. I want to try and do my own version of him, so I'm making him an older brother of James, essentially. So I think he looks really nice. I like how Eagle looks. Eagle, Winston, whatever you call him. I also don't care much. I just think he's James's brother. I like him. I also plan to use him in this future video. What it is exactly, I'm not telling. Next two models are two variants based on something pretty recent. These two are Thomas and Gordon, based on the Down the Mine pilot. Yeah, you should have seen this coming. I repainted spare Thomas and Gordons into a deeper blue to better match a classic series style. Though the colour of them now makes me reminds me of Season 5 and Thomas and the Magic Railroad, ironically. So that was a bit of a bad move, but oh well. I like how they look. I added a silver rim on the axle parts to try and better resemble the silver rims on the wheels we see in the pilot. I probably will give them paper faces based on the pilot at some point, but oh well. I like how they look. I did the details to the most accurate to the pilot, and yeah, that's basically it. Thomas and Gordon, based on Down the Mine, and I like them. And yeah, that's just them done. Next engine is a Railway Series character. Alright, and the next custom is...
So you're bound for the wee railways, then? You must put some order into those trucks. Even as they make it hard to believe.
Thank you, Neil. I was going to introduce you. Anyway, yep, I made Neil. Neil was made of Samson, just modified with tank on the side of his tanks to better resemble Neil's rather boxy shape. Trust me, if I was able to squeeze a number 2 into him, I definitely would have. I might place it on his butt. But anyway, I plan to redo with wheels in black at some point, but as of now, I like how Neil looks. He's a very nice looking character, and he will be used in a possible future series based on Sodor's early days. Next up, and to round off this first quarter of the video, we will have some mainland characters. Next custom is the City of Turo, or Turo, whatever you want to call him. Or as we may know him, the special friend of Duck. He was made of a spare James, with his face sanded down, and with tag placed on the front of his sanded down face. So, because I want to base it off the model series version, where he doesn't have a face. I think it makes him look more unique. I tried to make a good mix between red and brown for his particularly reddish brown on a footplate. Not perfect, but oh well. I like it. I think he's one of the better models I've made. And I wish we could have seen more real life engines being made as minis. Next up is Mallard. Or Mallard, whatever you want to call him. I think he's just Spencer but blue. Really nice, I like him. Yeah, do you have any money? So weird. I like him. He may not be an often character shown, but he'll still be there, basically. Last two for now, here is Ginty and Pug. Ginty and Pug were made of a spare neon splatter Thomas and a clownfish Ben, just repainted. They appeared in the story the Fat Controllers engines, but they were friends of Percy, and I like how they look. They're just Thomas and Ben, just repainted. And I also made a remake of the illustration of Ginty's face in the Railway series where Thomas bashed through some buffers. I made that community post a while back, and if you remember it, well, good for you. Here's what Pug looks like. I'm not a huge fan of the face, but overall I think they're alright. They're not going to be common characters in the series, I'll do, but hey, Ginty and Pug are chill. I like them. Next up is the Ultimate Gold Thomas. This is probably the oldest mini I have, if we're going to be realistic here. It's just the Golden Thomas you could have gotten in 2015 when the range first began. But I swapped his footplate for a gold colored one, so it looks like an ultra gold version of Thomas. I think it looks better than the red one. What do you think? Is he cool? I like him and I think he's cool. Last custom for this row is James based on Buzz Buzz. The story where James gets stung in the nose by a bee. It's my mother's personal favourite story, so I just used a Sharpie and dotted around some bees with a yellow one, meant to be the one that stings James. We did James's face with a red nose, and just bees on this side and all over the boiler. And yeah, that's nothing really much for him other than that. Next up, we got some diesel engines for this round up. Here are the next customs. Here we have Splatter and Dodge from Tatma. They were made of the spare Diesel and Paxton, just repainted. I really made these to coincide with Lady and Diesel 10, so we have the Magic Railroad cast as minis. I kind of wish we saw more of them, because Splatter and Dodge look like very cool characters you can work with. Considering they were planned to be in Season 6, The Great Race, and Calling All, and Day of the Diesels. That's cool. I think they are pretty good, and, kind of wish we could see them in the show. Not gonna happen now, obviously, but... Next up, we have Boko, made of a spare Toby. I think he looks alright. Could be a bit better, but... oh well, he can work for now. With that said, that's Boko, and here is Daisy, made of a spare Diesel 10. Daisy is in dire need of a redo, but oh well. I'll do that at some point. I think she looks alright, but definitely could look better. And here is Bola, aka D261. Made of a spare Diesel 10. I think he looks really cool. If yeah, that's just Bowler. What do you more do you expect? Here is Diesel 10 with a Lego Pinchy. Ah, crap. Okay, so I literally dropped Diesel 10 and his Lego Pinchy fell under the what unit? Oh god. I might talk to you about you later, Diesel 10, but for now, you sit there. Oh crap, I'm gonna have to dig under there and pick it up later. Oh damn it. Anyway, here is Mavis. Made of a spare diesel. I think she looks really cool. Mavis, for some reason, doesn't have a model, but I mean, it would have been cool if we had Minnie's Mavis, but I think she's a very nice looking model, if I say so. And that's all the diesels done, and now we are back onto the narrow gauge engines. Now, obviously, we know Scarlowy, Victor, Millie, and Luke were made in minis, but I always thought, why didn't we get the rest of the cast? So, here is a classic mini Scarlowy, harmless, very cool. But now let's see what his colleagues look like. And by the way, they're basically like 99% of them are Percy repaints, so don't be shocked. Here is Rheneas, made of a spare Percy with Edward's smokebox. Could be a bit better, I guess. But I like how the color looks. Think Rheneas is pretty cool. Here's one of my favorites, Sir Handel. He's just Percy with blue, and I think he's very cool. Like the face, looks really cool. And here is Peter Sam, made of a spare Percy with his funnel modified, so it looks like a skeezel ejector. We got just Percy, but a deeper green. Rusty is made of a spare Diesel with the face. Is made of a spare Sydney with the face from Salty. Put a bit of tag up there. That's meant to represent the little gold thingy on top of Rusty. Don't know what it's meant to be though. Think he looks pretty nice. Yes, like Sir Handel at the back. Back on topic, Rusty is a really nice looking model, and I think there's nothing much I really need to do about him. Now, here's my personal favorite, Duncan. He looks really good. I love his face, and I love how I made his details. He doesn't look half bad, and probably the best of the narrow gauge engines. Here we have Freddy, made of a spare duck with some paint modifications. Mighty Man! Yeah, Freddy is just a really nice model, and his face looks cool. Grey paint and all that. He was originally a darker grey, like Timothy, but since I got some new grey paint, he is a much brighter colour, looks more show accurate. I prefer him being grey rather than just pure white, because it doesn't look really cool. It looks weird. Here's my newest narrow gauge model, Proteus, with tag to represent his magic lamp. He's just similar to Sir Handel and all, but just with Duncan's colour palette, but it's fine. And now we have Duke. Now, funny story about Duke. I wanted to try and make my minis Duke more unique. Most people would probably try and make him look more like how he does in Season 4, aka his only season of relevance, but I wanted to try and make him look more like the hit entertainment condition Duke, where he was like a brighter brown and didn't have red on the front or back. I personally prefer him. I actually prefer Duke in his hit era colors rather than the classic. Yep, go ahead and kill me. You know you want to. But anyway, I like how Duke looks, and I am just so happy I could get him done. Next up is Bertram, which is sort of a mix between the TV series and the wooden railway toy of him. Since my version of Bertram is a tank engine, but just, you know, I think he looks really cool. I absolutely love Bertram. He and Duncan are tied as my favorite narrow gauge customs, so he just looks so cheerful, doesn't he? Hello there. So yeah, red domes like the wooden model, but a black roof like the show, because a red roof on him doesn't look right. We're almost done with the narrow gauge engines. Here is Smudger, made similar to Rheneas, just green. Yeah, nothing much to say about him. I like Smudger. Though I don't believe in the theory he and Bertram are the same. That just doesn't make sense. It's just confusing to me. Here we have Coldy, made of a spare duck. I think he is one of my favorites. I like how his back face looks and all. Purple livery, very fine for Coldy. Really wish he could have appeared in the show. And I originally didn't have a classic Skarloey until recently, so I tried to make a custom classic Skarloey, but since I have a classic one now, I tried to turn that spare Skarloey I had into Tallyclin from the Italian Railway. Really cool looking. And last locomotive custom, Stepney, the Bluebell engine. I absolutely love Stepney. He is so cute. He's made of a spare Thomas, just repainted in yellow. He's actually the newest I've done, considering I've had to repaint him all over, so he looks actually decent. He's just a very cute little guy. I love how I did his face very cutely. Narrow gauge engines. It's working down narrow gauge tracks. Technically, he is a narrow gauge engine if you think about it. I mean, there was like, well, I don't know why people think Stepney's a narrow gauge engine. I think it's very weird. I'm gonna get you back to my railway. Get back. I'm a standard gauge engine. You are? Well, obviously. You twit. Oh, well, for now I feel like an idiot. Peace. This is just Thomas and friends. Anything can happen. Stepney's personally my favorite standard gauge custom. Or probably maybe not, I don't know. I just love how Stepney looks. He's such a cool guy. And I wish we could have seen him more on the show, because he's very underused. Now we are on to rolling stock. Here we have improved Annie and Clarabelle. I've obviously flipped Clarabelle around, and I've painted their wheels in black and their roofs in a brighter grey. Because I'm not a fan of the black roofs they have in CGI. And I've also done their mouths to resemble the classic series a bit more. And I think they look really cool. I prefer them with black wheels rather than white. Just looks more natural to them. Here we have Henrietta, who I think could look better. Yeah, she's really very meh, if I say so. Here we have Toad, who I've redone the mouth for, and yeah, I like Toad. He's small, he's cute, but he gets the job done. Here we have the express coaches, because, we need Gordon to pull something, and I think they look really cool. But that's really all I can say about them. Just where we have more some more carriage variety. And here we have the trucks. They were all different trucks, but I have obviously fully repainted them all in black. So then they look more unified. I will obviously add faces onto them later, but for now, those choppers and trucks will get them all the same. Obvious joke is obvious joke. And that about does it with the customs. That is a lot of customs, even for minis. So, what do y'all think? Do you think they're cool, or do you think they're just whatever? I'd like to hear your opinions. But opinions form many interesting things in life. By the way, I have so many weights from the minis. You don't even know. But anyway, that will do, everyone. This is Thomas the Tank Engine and Happy Tree Friends Fan 2012 saying swallow all ya and have a good one. Streamlining. My people need me. And that's it. Bye.